Hello everybody, I am a man of Manetherin, and today I want to talk about what it is to be faithful to an adaptation of an intellectual property. I understand that when you purchase the rights to an IP, that these companies are sold, or these IPs are sold to a company that automatically allows them to make changes per whatever is in the agreement. But the real question becomes, does it make it the right or the ethical right of the holders to make those changes that alter the intellectual property's foundation? And I would argue that what we have seen with so many of the stories that we've been reading and digesting since we were children, via cartoons and books and comic books, that these changes that we've seen made are unethical changes, unnecessary changes that do harm to current generations, and maliciously destroy the expectations of the viewers who hold these intellectual properties dear. And so, for example, we can look at adaptations that are done correctly, that are done faithfully. And the biggest one and the easiest one that comes to my mind is Lord of the Rings. That set of movies, done by Peter Jackson, was a faithful adaptation. And yes, there were things changed that folks here and there don't like. But ultimately, what Peter Jackson wanted to do was to tell Tolkien's story, not his own version of Tolkien's story. And again, yes, there were changes, but they were made in good faith to the story. The most distracting change for me in the movies is the character of Aragorn. And when you read the books, Aragorn is the man the entire way through. He owns everything. He takes charge of everything. He is just beast mode all the way through, and he doesn't shirk away from anything. However, in the movie, he does try to deny the destiny that is his. He doesn't want that destiny until the third movie, when he realizes he can't avoid it any longer. But even in making that change, what we still see is Aragorn being an amazing character and taking charge of everything that he had to do that was necessary for the Fellowship in the first two movies. From taking care of the original 9 of the Fellowship in the first movie, to then moving on and immediately jumping in to take care of Frodo and Sam for a brief time, and then going after and saving, or trying to save, Merry and Pippin. In every situation, he took charge. And so his character, while his motivation was slightly altered for the purposes of drama, he was not changed drastically in the story. So overall, and yeah, we can talk about Tom Bombadil and all the other stuff that was changed, but what we do see is a faithful adaptation to that trilogy. On that same level, though, The Hobbit, I would argue, is not a faithful adaptation. Now, this was unfaithful in a different manner. It was not done in terms of trying to change things to fit a certain narrative, but they were adding things to the adaptation that didn't need to be there. They were also experimenting with filming technologies that they probably didn't need to try and throw in there, that kind of made the thing feel off. When you look at it, the unfaithful portions of the adaptation, we saw a ham-fisted love plot thrown in there between an elf and a dwarf that would not have existed. That love plot damaged the storyline, the flow of the story, and it damaged the character of the dwarf in the book. That same female elf was an elf who was added into the storyline that was created out of whole cloth just for the sole purposes of becoming a love interest, which was, in many views, a love interest that sparked a slightly conflicted love triangle that was unnecessarily put in there, because they added in the character of Legolas, who never appeared in the Hobbit book, and he was added solely for fan service. And this was a Legolas who is, 10 or 15 years older than what he was when he was filmed in the original trilogy, even though the book is 50, 60 years prior. So these additions to scenes, or the scene diversions that were added in, make the storytelling gaudy and unnecessary. I'm not a big detractor from adding in the storyline of Gandalf and the whole necromancer storyline, because that is part of the books in terms of the appendices of Lord of the Rings, and I thought it would be neat. But when you include this overly played battle in the third of those movies, and then the love storyline, the enhanced confrontation between Smaug and the dwarves, a lot of it seemed comical, and it took away from the storytelling. Additions to storytelling can be forgivable as long as they enhance the scene and they don't become the scene itself. But The Hobbit failed miserably here in many, many respects. We can even look at Game of Thrones. And Game of Thrones started off pretty well because it kept decently to the books. And even though the books included a lot of sex scenes, I felt the show was a bit more gratuitous in that realm. And I, for one, am of the opinion that you don't necessarily need to include those things just to grab viewers. Stories is what grabs viewers. Once they got through 3.5 seasons, the things started to come off the rails, and they really went off the rails after they got through all the book material. And then travel started becoming ignorant of time constraints. Characters began to ignore certain development progressions that they had taken from the first season to where they were at that moment, just for the sake of plot points and convenience. And many other things that made us wonder, what in the world are we watching? Like, McQueen. She's McQueen. So those are a few examples of good and bad adaptations to stories. And it is very clear that the Wheel of Time is just plummeted nearly immediately. It took a few seconds of the first episode, but immediately into the bad category. And in the use of the line, "This is just another turning of the wheel," we are given an excuse that gives the showrunners carte blanche to use their own agenda in that storytelling. Now they're giving themselves permission to change the DNA, and quite literally, of this show. of this story. This is a fantasy world that already had in it cultures and morals already set in place in those specific cultures. And so layering in our own real life sets and our real life cultures, even though some of them may or may not resemble our own, is wrong. To change the morals of Emmons Field is wrong. Because there's a lot of other places in that world setting that have similar morals as we do in today's day and age. Those cultures, those belief systems are built into that fantasy setting, and inserting our own breaks the world building that was set in place over the course of 14 books and endless amounts of toil from Robert Jordan and eventually Brandon Sanderson. And treating this material or any other with the agenda of diversity and inclusion is wrong, especially when those IPs were not written with those agendas in the author's minds. So that's what I think about this. This is an unethical telling of a story because they can't be creative enough on their own time to be able to write a woke story that will appeal to greater masses. They want the built-in audience already so that they can just shove it down your throats. So, what are your thoughts on this topic? I know that many of you will agree, and I may even get some comments that don't agree, and that's perfectly fine. But as we dive deeper into the Wheel of Time intellectual property, I would like to know your thoughts. I am no oracle of truth, and in fact I guarantee you that I will get some things wrong occasionally. As long as there's constructive correction, I won't take that with offense. My intention for this channel is, at least immediately, or in the very near future, to do an episode-by-episode breakdown. So, yes, I'm actually going to have to sit down and try not to sear my eyes shut with a red-hot poker and view these episodes again. But I want to do a breakdown of them, because I think it's important to do what many others have already done and just kind of give my points of view and just present. We have issues here with the storytelling. I like to do also a high-level review of the magic system that Robert Jordan created, and that video will probably be coming out pretty soon. Want to do videos dedicated to each main character and do a compare and contrast. And try not to do too many spoilers, but I think that's kind of unavoidable. And then also even try to do location compares. So what is Emmons Field or Two Rivers, and what is that compared to what it is in the television show, the book to the TV show? These are important because that's really the basis of a lot of culture that this show is completely rich in. And to sit there and say that conservative groupings of people in locations are an uncultured perspective just because they don't have a liberal position in certain viewpoints is very dishonest and very intellectually deceiving to yourself. And I will also be surprised if I dip a little into other intellectual properties and discuss those as well, like Lord of the Rings, like the show Arcane, and maybe even The Witcher if I read those books. I've certainly started watching the show in the second season. So, like I said, drop a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. Did you like what I presented here? Did you not? And I would love to fellowship around that. So as for now, Shagar Asa Nivron Taishar Manetherin.